Domnep Sua. Welcome to another Realestate.com.kh TV news report. Today we're in the studio with Mr. Desmond Yap from Yong Yap Properties, and we're going to clarify some of the recent foreign ownership law changes which we've been seeing in Phnom Penh. Thanks for coming along, Des.
Yeah, my pleasure.
Pleasure to have you here again.
Cheers, mate.
Okay, so can you just talk us through what's happened in the last month or so?
Yeah, sure. So the last month, there's a lot of news about foreign ownership, especially around the riverside area, the Khans and Sangkats. So the law's always been in place. I think it came in 2010, where foreigners could own properties that's above ground in a co-managed building or co-owned building, and in a building that's no more than 70% foreign owned.
And they can own hard title.
Correct. It comes in both forms, soft and hard title, but the majority is hard title for these type of properties. So that's the law as it stands. Now, in the riverside area, the Sangkat and the Khan that's in charge of processing the properties, they do allow foreigners to own under their name. So they kind of turn a blind eye to the strata title ruling and the 70-30% ruling, which doesn't really come into effect, but they do allow foreigners to put it under their name.
In a soft title?
Correct, yeah. So it's a bit of a grey area where technically you're not allowed to own it. However, the authorities in charge of it do allow you to put it under your name.
And a soft title, right, is a possessory title.
Correct.
And when you take on a soft title, whether you're a foreigner or a Khmer, you don't need to pay the transfer fee that you would pay for a hard title.
Yes and no. There's obviously costs involved in transferring it over, but it's quite minimal compared to a hard title transfer. So a normal transfer at the local Sangkat would cost between $300 to $500 to transfer names. That's pretty much the extent of all the cost to transfer soft title. With hard title, yes, it's 4% of the transfer fee, and then the lawyer fees and other things associated with that.
But your hard title is respected at the national level.
That's correct. Yeah.
But your soft title.
Yeah.
Sangkat.
Soft title is registered at the Sangkat, which is the local level, the Khan, which is the district level, but not the national level. So hard title goes to that to the next level. The Sangkat and the Khan obviously does due diligence to make sure that on the national level there's no dual titles and things like that, but it's not registered at that level.
And so up until now, a lot of Sangkats around Phnom Penh have been allowing foreigners to take on a soft title for a flat above the first floor, or even ground floor, right?
Not ground floor.
Not ground
100%
floor.
Not ground floor, but
above
the ground. Certain areas allow it. So Phnom Penh Makara, they did allow foreigners to own properties in the past under their name. They stopped foreigners owning those properties about over a year ago.
The 7 Makara.
Yes, the Khan Phnom Penh Makara. So up until last month, the only Khan that allowed it to happen was Khans and Sangkats, which is the riverside area. So Khans and Sangkats is the last one that tightened up the law. Now throughout Phnom Penh, as far as we understand, foreigners can only own the condominiums in their name.
Okay, so obviously we can't be certain on how this enforcement is going to play out in Phnom Penh, but I mean, based on the experience of 7 Makara changing last year, what do you think is going to happen now for foreigners who are currently owning flats in Phnom Penh with a soft title?
Yep, you've pointed out Khans Phnom Penh Makara did allow that in the past. So what we can assume is just the precedence on other areas. So what's happened there is over a year ago, you can't transfer the title into a foreigner's name. So if you've got a property there, you can still live in it. You can still rent it out as an investment. Just when you come to sell it, it has to be under Khmer National. So the authorities there are not enforcing you to do certain things. They still let you live there as normal, just when you do transfer it into a Khmer name. So we would assume that in Khans and Sangkats, that's going to be the same precedence. But we're not sure, 100% sure.
So for the time being, the foreigner can still hold the property, rent it, and keep it in their possession until they need to sell.
Correct. Yep. At the moment, they still have full rights, so nobody's coming after them and saying you need to do A, B, or C.
And what if, but they can't pay for the transfer into a hard title because they still can't get a hard title on that property?
Yes, correct. Certain properties above ground you can convert into hard title. However, a foreigner cannot own these under hard title, so they will not be able to transfer.
Most of these properties don't apply.
Correct.
Okay. So that covers the foreigners who currently have a soft title in Phnom Penh. But what say you're a foreigner and you're still interested to buy one of these houses, but you can no longer get the soft title under your name? What's the steps you can take to buy these properties now?
Okay, very good question there, James. There's a few ways that foreigners can purchase now. The most typical way is through a nominee structure. Basically just means you have a Cambodian friend or partner that you can put under their name. So for example, if I'm your nominee here, you can use me to buy the property for you. Obviously, you can assume there's an element of risk there. You really have to know who I am and you can trust me. Now, lawyers can protect you to quite a large extent. Common protection is like a mortgage. So if I buy the property for you, okay, I have a mortgage of X number of dollars. So I have to pay that out to you before I can sell the property. Another way is a long-term contract. So I buy the property for you, okay, I agree to rent out the property to you for $1 a year for the next 50 years with a renewal at the end of it. That can get registered at the Land Ministry as a long-term contract. So there's certain ways to protect the foreigner's interest, and definitely would advise to go to a good lawyer which can draft up all the agreements for you.
But I guess ultimately, under the nominee structure, the title is under your nominee's name. It's
Correct.
not your title,
Yep.
but you just build a network of safeguards.
Yes, that's exactly right.
And it's quite a common thing, right? People have been doing it for years.
Yeah, exactly. And also our surrounding countries, Vietnam and Thailand. If foreigners want to buy properties there, they've got to go through a nominee structure. So it's quite common in this part of the world. And like I said, the lawyers here have dealt with a lot of cases like this, so they know how the law is and to protect you and all the methods that they have.
Okay, so we know that foreigners can easily own under strata title properties if the property reaches all the right criteria for those properties. But if they're still interested to buy a property which doesn't have a strata title, what are some other ways besides the nominee structure that they might be able to use?
Okay. Another common way is the company structure. So it's 49% foreign owned and 51% Khmer owned. You can imagine lawyers can draft up power of attorneys, the shares and things like that, so you still retain full control of it. So that's another common method.
That applies to land too, right?
Yes, correct. So once you have that company set up, it's a land holding company if it's 51% Khmer owned. So you can by right own pretty much anything in Cambodia. Going through a company, you're liable for more paperwork. Every month you've got to file in taxes and things like that. But yeah, it's definitely a more transparent way where you can assign certain shares and all that. So it's quite clear. Besides the nominee structure, you can obviously marry a local and then buy it through there. Another way is also to buy citizenship, a less common way, but you can potentially buy citizenship here and then become a Khmer national and have full rights as a Cambodian.
So despite the constitution and things like the strata law, there are many ways around these laws in Cambodia to allow foreign ownership and control of land and landed properties.
Yeah, definitely. You can imagine big investors want to come to Cambodia, grow the country and add investments here. So they need a way to grow that investment, and company structure is usually the best way for them to do that.
Okay, well that about covers that. And now that the new enforcement's coming in, how do you see the market adjusting in the next sort of 3 to 6 months?
Okay. I think there'll be a slowdown in the market, especially on the sell side. With the law that's coming in, everyone's going to be a bit. Let's see what the market does before they act on it. So I would predict the next 3 to 6 months will be quite slow on the sell side. The rental market isn't affected by the new law change, so that's not going to have any bearing on it. And I think price-wise, I don't think the price would drop that much because, as I said, the rental market's still going to sustain what it's going to collect. If the sell price drops that much, investors are going to kick in and say, well, we're getting great returns, so I'm going to find a mechanism to buy it because the returns are that great. So at the moment, most of our investors get between 8 to 9% returns at the current selling price. So if that drops below, then they get 10% plus returns. they will find a way to purchase these properties. So that's where we see the market heading. And like I said earlier, the surrounding neighbouring countries, they all have to buy through a nominee structure or company structure. So with that, the neighbouring countries, the price hasn't collapsed, so we would assume Cambodia would be the same.
And I mean, I guess, in fact, the law actually always said this.
That's
It
right.
just hasn't been practiced until now.
Yeah, that's exactly right. And with all of our customers, we do explain the law to them, and these are the risks that's involved. So, you know, they do take aboard the risks if they do want to buy it through their name, which they could in the past. Now they've obviously just got to go through nominee.
Okay, great. It's good to understand that a little bit better. And so for a foreign investor coming in now and want to get their hands on some of these properties, what sort of steps should they take?
Okay, number one, find a reputable agency. Okay, information in Cambodia, it's hard to come by good information. So I think for an investor, they need to know all the right information, then they can make the right decisions later. So number one, find out a good agency that can provide you all the information about the area. From there, know the legalities. Find a good lawyer and know all the steps to protect yourself. And I think from there, the investor has the right information. They can make the decision based on the information out there. So yeah, to sum up, get the good information, get the right information. Even with lawyers, there's some cheap lawyers, there's some more expensive lawyers. We would advise in a market like this, go with someone that costs a bit more, that provides you the right level of protection and actually has experience dealing with similar situations.
Okay, very good. Okay, thanks Des for coming in and clarifying that for us. Very
pleasure,
useful for foreign investors considering buying in Phnom Penh. And if anybody is interested in properties around the Riverside area, this is Yong Yap Properties specialty. They're a Western-focused agency, and they can help you out with all the information you need. Okay, cheers.
Thanks.
And thanks again for watching Realestate.com.kh TV. Stay tuned.